y'all know, my name is João DePina. I'm a longtime resident of Roxbury. I was born in Cape Verde, came here at the age of 6 years old, and immediately came to Langdon Street in Roxbury, and I lived on Langdon and Albion Street area until the age, I was there for maybe a year. And from there, I was taken by DCF and put in DCF care due to the amount of, I would say, violent abuse and the physical abuse that I was enduring, and the violence that I was enduring my father, as he always would beat my mother. So domestic violence is something that is dear to me because I understand it more than a lot of people. And when we talk about PTSD, domestic violence is one of those that women and children both suffer from. So moving on, I was program. Then I was put in a foster home in my early teenage years. And from there, I endured more abuse. You know, and I'm talking, you know, physical, mental, and verbal abuse in the foster home. And prior to that, I'm very open about this. And it's because it's part of my reason that I'm running and part of my platform. While being in DCF care, rather than just getting a whipping from my mother, I got molested, raped, and abused. So I've used that as my platform to be able to grow. Most people say, well, Joe, how do you function? You're okay with it. You could talk about it. Well, it's something that I've been able to talk about because I find it's self-healing. And also often, people that go through these things in these situations, and kids that are raised in foster care, that are being abused, don't have a platform to talk about it. And as I grow older, I feel that I need to make a platform for these young people, and for especially young men and women that are getting abused and don't have a voice. Because, see, when I came over, I didn't speak English. I spoke Portuguese, Cape Verdean, Creole. And there was a language barrier for me and my entire family, including my mom. So I couldn't communicate to the people that were supposed to protect me of how I was not being protected and how I was enduring abuse. So, you know, those things went on. I came into, like I said, I came to the foster home, and I thrived from there. I said, no way am I going back. And my foster mother was a lovely woman, Barbara Benjamin, God rest her soul. She took me in as her own child from day one. And I never forget the day I walked into her home as a foster child. It was a trial. We went there, and she said to me, she looked at me, and she was in tears. And I said, what did I do wrong? Oh my God, somebody else doesn't love me. And she turned around, she wiped away her tears, and she stood up, and she came to me, and she said, stand up. She gave me a hug, and she turned around to the social worker, and she said, he will stay right here with me. And I said, oh, you were just crying. I thought you was something upset. She says, you remind me of my child, my son that was born, and my son, and he passed away, and he would look just like you. And from there, I felt love. And that's what I needed, love. That's what a lot of our kids are lacking, love. Whether it's just because the parents don't have time to give them love because they're working too hard, or the parent simply doesn't know how to love. So, you know, moving on, I became a young man that I am, and I owe a lot of gratitude to a lot of people. But there's one particular person that took me in and gave me a job at the age of 19. His name is Baldwin Ainacho. And despite of whatever happened with Mr. Baldwin Ainacho, he was a father figure to me. He took me into his pharmacy, and I worked there for just about 11, 12 years about. And I started from a cashier, making minimum wage, and I finally became basically the manager of the store. I oversaw everything. I did all the ordering of the drugs and everything else. And the man sent me to school. He said, a high school diploma is not good enough, Joa. And if my kids have a degree, you need to have a degree. So we're going to start you off. You're going to go to Newberry College, and you're going to do this pharmacy technician program. I said, so be it. I took it on, and he helped me pay for it, and I did it. And I became the pharmacy technician of the place. So when people talk about opportunities, I'm talking about these things, and I'm stopping in between to tell you a little backstory about it, and because it matters. And when we talk about opportunities, if you don't give a young man an opportunity that you see going down the wrong path, they're prone to be part of the bad part of our community. But I was fortunate. I was fortunate to have someone that was a total stranger that took me under his wing and taught me how to be a young man with responsibility in a job. So I from the bottom of my heart, I want to publicly say one thing. Mr. Baldwin Inacho, despite of whatever the state and the Commonwealth of Massachusetts have done against him, he saved me and several other young people in in the Bolden, Geneva area, as some of them are now police officers working in high positions because of Baldwin Inacho taking us under his wing. From there, I went on. The business closed. I went on to go to Roxbury Community College. I pushed myself through there, and where I obtained my degree in biological science, because I was heading to pharmacy school to follow footsteps of Baldwin Inacho, and it became a challenge. Having 2 children, headaches, and everything else. Financial and everything, so I had to pick a different route. So I finished my degree at Roxbury, and I said, okay, what am I going to do? And I was looking at pharmacy school, then I was looking at becoming a embalmer or a funeral director and nursing school, because these are all things that matter to me. And I pick all these things, and you know why I picked these different jobs and careers that I was looking at? They were all helping people. I don't know how to do any different. It's just instilled in me. It's also instilled in my mother. Me and her argue about it all the time. Mom, come on. Mom, come on. But I gotta help these people. And that's how I feel. And I say, I always scream at Mom for it, but you know what? I'm just as guilty of just not being able to just stop. So helping people is my thing, and knowing that I could help someone sick, because in the pharmacy I helped elderly people that were struggling. When you're dealing with funeral home, I'm dealing with families that are dealing with trauma. And when you're working in nursing, you're saving people's lives. And so that's why I was looking down that path. However, I ended up not going down any of those paths. Here I am today. Because as 2002, when Malik Andrade Percival was murdered on Barry Street, a 3-year-old that was shot in his own home for being in his own house, not guilty of doing anything. And we barely speak about Malik Andrade Percival, but I will never stop speaking about this young boy, because he changed my life. No more hanging on the streets, no more playing with guns, no more hanging with the bad friends, no more going to jail for stupid stuff, because I learned from that was my lesson. 3-year-old in his house, mind his business to get killed, and for his murder to go unconvicted. I picked up my stuff and I started walking around this community, walking around this neighborhood. I raised over $400 to make some T-shirts for his family for that funeral. And I continued thriving, and I joined Zara Mendes, which was Bobby Mendes Peace Legacy, and I started working with her. I started working with Tina Sherry with Louis D. Brown Peace Institute, and I was part of the very first walk she ever did. 20 years later, I'm still here. And I just been thriving, helping families that are losing children to gun violence. And and trauma, or the kids that are just being shot in the streets like dogs. And I take a lot of my free time and I started helping these families out, helping them find trauma services, helping their kids find trauma services, helping them find a funeral home, because I own my own small business now, which is a floral design business, so I'm able to, a lot of times I'm making casket pieces, or I'm discounting it, or I'm putting it up on there for free. Because no black children in my community should go without a flower on their casket just because they're poor. And that's my feeling. So that's why I do what I do. So moving forward, I got really involved. I started attending all our community meetings. No, we don't get paid after work, and many of us in this room that do that kind of work, we know after 6 to 9 when you're in a meeting, it's just solely community service work. And all the walks and organizations that I've been doing, I've been organizing the community since 2002. You know, we do all this stuff. It's all because I want to, because I feel our community needs it. So I've been going on and doing that kind of stuff, and I finally realized that politics is where I need to be. And I've always had love for politics. I followed politics since I came to the country. And back then, it was, we had Mayor Flynn for a little while, and then it went on to Menino. And, you know, so I followed politics, and I realized, Joe, you know, you need to get involved in politics, because you know what, if you want to make change, you got to know who to talk to. And I always say, you know, the little fish, we could talk to them, but I'm just going to waste my time. So I have a tendency to just go on. But I want to talk about, quickly about my policies, because, you know, I got some amount of time to talk about what's going on. But my policies. My main policy is mental health, because our community is lacking. For a long time, mental health is the issues that we continue to overlook. But if we are able to fix some of these mental health issues, we won't have the violence. We won't have the opioid abuse. Because you know what? Oh, so often, these people that are on these drugs, they're on drugs because they need help. So they use help to cover up their issues. And I mean, they use drugs to cover up their issues. So we need to be able to tackle the mental health in our community. We need to make it not a stigma. We need to make it something that is really looked at very well. And we can clarify a lot of our issues if we could take care of mental health. PTSD, police suffer from it, firemen suffer from it. A lot of our government people suffer from PTSD, because once you're in war, you come back, you don't forget it. So then housing. Housing is another major issue to me, because living in Roxbury for over 15 years, I lived on Elm Hill Avenue. I've been on Elm Hill Avenue. I'm still there. I've been able to clean up Elm Hill Avenue, by the way. I was the one that initiated all the camera systems, and Elm Hill Avenue, a lot of the side streets are clean. But our housing is going up too high in Boston. People should be able to live and afford to live here. We should not be pushing out our elderly and our longtime residents of Roxbury, pushing them out by the way of gentrification and the way of classism. Because gentrification to us is not because of race, it's because of class. I drive for a living, so part of my living, supplement my income from my own business. And I drive, and I know where everybody lives in Boston. Do you know that a lot, I'm gonna say, the wealthy foreign have pushed people out of downtown and pushed them into South End, and pushing them into Southie, and now they're pushing into Roxbury because we're being pushed out. So we need to get a handle of that, and we need to also understand that there's a candidate running against the other 12 candidates, has already written letters to support the Grand Rio project prior to even knowing what the project was going to look like, whether it was going to gentrify our community, what it was going to be to our community. But rather, this particular candidate wrote, I support this project because I think it's going to be great for this community. So yeah, thanks for selling our community out early, before even talking to the people of our community. Because before, as your elected city councilor, hopefully as your next city councilor, I will make sure I talk to each and one of you And you at home, I will make sure I talk to you or send you a letter and let you know what's going on and what do you think about it before I go writing a letter based on what I think. Because it's not about it's not about me, it's about us and we.